Now, it's been revealed that Labour MPs have accepted thousands of pounds worth of gifts and hospitality from some of the unions, wreaking havoc this Christmas. Among the politicians being wined and dined are Rachel Hopkins, the Shadow Cabinet Officer Minister, who accepted dinner and a seat at the table of the ASLEF Rail Union for two glitzy events this year. I think one of them was something to do with some sort of food. Which one was that? Let's see.
Kebab Awards?
Yeah, it was the Kebab Awards, actually. And Lisa Nandy, the party's Levelling Up spokeswoman, who accepted a 4-night hotel stay from the Communications Workers Union to attend Labour's annual conference in September. And Deputy Leader Angela Rayner, who accepted more than £750 worth of rail tickets and hotel stays from Unison and Nasrut to speak at a union event at an event this year. And separately, trade unions have donated more than £15 million to the party constituency groups and to its MPs since spring 2020. So, James, I'll start with you. Whilst this isn't illegal, is this problematic in your view?
Well, what's problematic is that Daily Mail's scraping the bottom of the barrel to impugn the Labour Party, which is very easy to impugn, but 35 grand, Nana. I mean, you know, now Rachel Hopkins, the Shadow Cabinet Office Minister, with whom we're all familiar, aren't we, Matthew? The poor thing got a seat at the table of the ASLEF Rail Union for two glitzy events this year, the British Kebab Awards, and the other was the Southeast Asians for Labour dinner. Both were worth more than £300. You'd have to pay me £3,000 to go to the Kebab Awards. All those announcements.
You poor thing.
You know, I like kebabs, I like Asia and Southeast Asia, but this is not corruption on a grand scale. Yeah, but, you know, but this is just rubbish from the Daily Mail.
It's not corruption at all, as you say. It's not illegal. I think the wider conversation to be had is fascinating. Whether our MPs should be able to receive gifts. And also, even though they declare them, of course, on the register of interest, but also whether they should be able to do second jobs. And I think that's absolutely fascinating. I'm inclined to agree, at least in part, with James here. This is a desperate attempt by the Mail to tie the strikes to Labour. The Conservatives, let's remember, have been in power, initially with the Lib Dems, OK, for 12 years, for over a decade. These strikes are about the Conservative Party, not about Labour. And what the Mail is trying to do here is say, some Labour MPs received a bit of hospitality from unions, and therefore these are... The undertone is that these are strikes that are tied to Labour. It's nonsense. So let me get this straight. Absolute nonsense. So let me get this straight. You're prepared to dismiss, then, this is complete nonsense? No, because you are. You're dismissing it. And I think, actually, it's very, very important. The wider story is important,
finish, because I did listen to you. I think it's very, very important to actually consider what these people are doing. These are potentially leaders of this next country, if they're planning to... Sorry, let me finish. These are potentially a party who are maybe going to take over if the Tories pull themselves together. They need to get on with it. And what we're seeing here is that they are in hock with the trade unions. And what we need to consider as a people watching this and as a people who are prepared to vote for these people is whether they will be swayed in their decisions and be prepared to take more of these things. Because, and I don't think there's more things. I mean, one of them here, Jonathan Ashworth, the party's work and pension spokesperson and transport spokeswoman, Louise Haigh, and employment spokesperson Justin Matters, went to Madrid at the expenses of the Trade Union Congress, OK? Collectively, it's worth £7 grand. Now, that, to me, is quite a lot of money, and they should know better. They shouldn't be accepting things like that. Why are they accepting stuff like that?
Look, you could only have a balanced conversation about this if you take some Conservative MPs, indeed many Conservative MPs, and ask who is giving them gifts as well? Who's funding the Tory party? Yeah, we all know, and it says in this article as well, that the trade unions...
Well, that's why
the trade unions part fund the Labour Party.
So why are you
dismissing it? £15 million.
So why are you dismissing it? You're dismissing it. You said...
You're missing the nuance.
No.
Are you going to let me answer?
No, don't patronise me.
OK, well, don't let me answer.
Don't patronise me. I'm not missing any nuance here.
Well, I'll explain why.
Well, you can let me finish. You have said that this is just the Daily Mail trying to stoke this, that and the other, when actually... And then you're saying you need to go... This is a very important thing, right? These people are in hock with the trade unions. £15.8 million £15.8 million.
As I said, the very
I'm still
first...
speaking, my mouth is still moving. £15.8 million worth of money has gone via those trade unions, through those trade unions, since Keir Starmer's been there. And these are extra bits. This is on top. We need to take that seriously.
It is very important. The first thing that came out of my mouth was the wider conversation about what MPs receive from whom, what influence it may or may not have on them, who funds our main political parties.
Exactly.
It is important. All I am saying is that in this case, I think that what the Mail is trying to do is tie the strikes to the unions. It's not an article simply
why
about...
not? Strikes are tied to the unions. What's wrong with that?
You mean the Labour Party?
They are. I'm trying to... We've talked a lot...
You mean the Labour Party to the unions?
Yes, well, obviously the strikes are tied to the unions. Tie the Labour Party to the strikes and to the unions. We know that there is some sort of symbiotic relationship between the unions and Labour.
And we need to consider whether that is conducive.
Look, as someone who, broadly speaking, supports the Labour Party, I think it is absolutely fair that Labour should be scrutinised, broadly speaking.
Good.
Labour should be scrutinised over who funds them and what their MPs are receiving, just as the Tories should be.
Which they are.
All I am saying is that there is a wider issue here. The government at the moment and the MPs who support that government, the Tory MPs, you could find many stories about them that would raise eyebrows.
You could, and we have raised eyebrows on many of those stories, but this should not be dismissed in the Daily Mail. Have I got a good point, James?
Well, the bigger issue is even bigger than what you say, Matthew, which is, should the state or the Electoral Commission or Matthew or Nana determine how political parties are funded? Right? And my answer is no. Of course that hands a lot of power to, you know, baronial estates supporting the Conservative Party, baronial union leaders supporting the Labour Party. But if you want to tell me who the impartial authority is, who you can identify, who would say, no, you're not allowed to take that donation, you are allowed to take that donation because I say so, who's going to elect that party? Who's going to be sure that they're impartial? If I can just finish, I think you can allow me just this once. You know, we need new parties in this country, and the more restrictions we place on their funding, from whoever it is, however dislikable, is a great mistake to allow, and one that will stop the emergence of the new parties that this country desperately needs.
But we need to take into account who is funding them. So,
yeah, sure.
So with regard to...
But is it a question of bans, my dear? One thing is your information about it. And not being covert about that. But another thing is whether, you know, we're going to believe that a neutral arbiter should decide how political parties are funded. No, that's not democratic.
But this is... But if we look at the things that they're accepting, we should be asking whether our MPs should be allowed to accept these sort of things.
Yeah,
because
let them allow it.
And also, what you said, Matthew, actually was about their second jobs, because I'm not happy with them being able to have a second job. Because I think that is a conflict in many cases of interests.
It's a really difficult, thorny issue. We, at the moment, have IPSA, which is the Independent Parliamentary Standards Authority, I think, and they regulate this, OK? So they decide what you can and can't receive, or at least they log it. And they don't set limits necessarily, but they monitor it. So I think about 80% of what MPs for their private offices, so not government, but MPs for their private offices, so for example for staffing and stuff, about 80% of that is covered through IPSA. The question is what happens to the other 20%, and also what happens to MPs who are working in jobs other than for their constituents. And I think that is really important. There may be transparency. There is transparency because we have the register of interests, and that seems to be monitored by IPSA. But the fact that we've got transparency doesn't, in itself, I think, cure the issue. Because if I elect an MP, I want that MP to be working for me and working for the other people who live in my area. I don't want to think or know that they may be being influenced by people who are paying them or giving them gifts, in this case, outside of me, the public. And I think it is a problem. You disagree, though, on that? No,
I was just going to say, when I run for MP again, if I do run again, because I have run, I promise to donate my MP's salary to the popular cause.
Which is what?
Well, anything I like.
Well, you can do that if you like.
Yeah, so I won't take a salary, and nor will I have a second job.
But I'm run for free.
Yeah, I'm entirely relaxed about, you know, political parties getting their funding from anywhere. You know, it's the ideas that count. Let's not join the dots.
You say it's the ideas that count, but if we just think about it very... if we think about... what has been said, the trade unions, and we know for a fact that in particular the civil servants trade unions, are trying to bring down the government. That's what they said, that was their aim. That's what the leader of that union said.
The First Division Association, he's paid 150 grand, he doesn't need any extra money.
But that's what I'm saying. The unions are getting too powerful, and if the political parties are relying on these unions for their money, which a lot of the Labour Party are relying a lot of money upon them, then I think, we have to be careful.
The unions have never been less powerful. I mean, you're so young, Nana. You don't remember when they were a bit powerful. Do you think Mick Lynch is... You think Mick Lynch is where Arthur...
How old do you think I am? How old do you think I am?
No, I'm not going to get into that. No, wait a minute. I'm the one answering questions.
How old do you think I am?
No, my point is that if you get...
That's patronising. Let me read some of these out.
It is, James,
it is pretty patronising, don't you?
Really? What?
Called Nana my dear as well.
I heard that earlier.
It's a terrible offence.
No,
a terrible offence. The question is Mick Lynch is Mick Lynch up to Arthur Scargill? Are we in the same era as the real era of trade union power? We're not, Nana.